It was just a wooden box with a glass door, filled with used books. No one expected it to do much. But what it sparked on one quiet street changed how neighbors saw each other forever. Headphones subscribe to minutes of moral for powerful, real-inspired stories that remind us the smallest things can create the biggest changes. Like, comment, and share to spread the message. Pineview Lane was your average American suburb. Nice lawns. Closed doors. Neighbors smiled, but no one really talked. Until a woman named Mrs. Carter, a retired librarian with silver hair and a soft voice, nailed a small wooden box to a post in her front yard. On it, she wrote, "Take a book, leave a book." Inside were a few of her favorite novels, gently worn, but full of stories. To her, it was more than a project. It was a way to share the magic she'd spent her life curating. For weeks, nothing happened. People walked past, glanced, and moved on. But one day, a little boy named Sam, no older than 7, hesitated in front of the box. His mom watched from the sidewalk as he carefully pulled out a comic book featuring a superhero in a wheelchair. His eyes lit up. The next day, a teenager left a worn-out mystery novel with a sticky note that said, "This one kept me up all night. Enjoy." Then it began. Soon, new books appeared every week. A handwritten poem tucked into a romance novel. A cookbook from the 1970s. Even a personal note. To whoever reads this next, you're stronger than you think. People began chatting by the box. Have you read the one with the dog? I left that thriller last week, what did you think? My daughter drew this bookmark, help yourself. It was no longer just about books. It was about connection. One neighbor, Mr. Hernandez, a quiet widower who rarely came outside, added a tiny bench beside the box. He began sitting there with a thermos of tea, nodding and eventually speaking to passers-by. Another neighbor, Jess, brought potted marigolds to line the post. Her 2 sons offered to paint the bench with bright colors. What started as a spontaneous splash of paint became a weekly creative ritual. The bench changed themes every month, from rainbows to fall leaves to Halloween monsters. Children organized weekend book swaps under the big oak tree nearby. Parents brought lemonade and cookies. Teens started a Pineview Reads book club. Mrs. Carter quietly watched it all unfold from her porch, her eyes sometimes misty. The street started to feel alive. Then one day, the box was vandalized. The glass shattered. Books tossed in the mud. Notes ripped. The bench defaced with spray paint. Everyone was heartbroken. For many, it felt like a betrayal, not just of property, but of the sense of trust they had begun to build. Mrs. Carter, shaken, went out early that morning with a broom and garbage bag. She tried to clean it alone. But by 8 a.m., she wasn't alone anymore. One by one, neighbors came, some still in pajamas, some with tools, others with paint, wood, even snacks for volunteers. People who had never spoken were now sanding shelves side by side, replacing glass, and scrubbing graffiti. Together, they rebuilt the library. Better. Stronger. Brighter. Someone added fairy lights that twinkled at night. Another brought waterproof bins to protect the books. They even made a community board beside it, job postings, local events, birthday wishes, lost pet flyers. Kids made bookmarks and sold them for 25 cents, using the money to buy more books for the library. And just like that, Pineview Lane wasn't just a street anymore. It was a community. The ripple effect didn't stop there. A woman named Priya, who lived 2 streets down and had just moved from another city, noticed the box during a walk. Curious, she took a novel. The next week, she returned, not just with a book, but with homemade samosas. They disappeared within minutes. From that moment, every first Sunday of the month became Samosas and Stories, where neighbors shared food and favorite reads. Across the street, an elderly man named Mr. Delaney, who had spent years alone after his wife passed, began contributing weekly haikus. A young girl named Ava began collecting them and made a booklet she titled The Delaney Collection. When Mr. Delaney was hospitalized that winter, Ava delivered a copy of the booklet to his bedside. He cried. During the holidays, the box was decorated with garlands and a little mailbox for letters to Santa. One letter read, "Dear Santa, I don't need toys. Can you help my dad find a job so we don't have to move?" It wasn't signed, but it moved the neighborhood into action. The community board was flooded with job leads. A few weeks later, an anonymous note was added. He found a job. Thank you, Pineview. When Mrs. Carter fell ill in early spring, the neighborhood took turns checking on her. Meals were dropped off. Children left drawings in her mailbox. One morning, a new sign appeared on the box. Mrs. Carter's Library, in honor of the storyteller who started it all. It was hand-painted by teenagers she'd never taught, but whose hearts she had touched. By the time summer came around, something truly unexpected happened. The city council reached out. Inspired by Pineview Lane, they asked Mrs. Carter and a few neighbors to help install similar boxes across the district. Each would include not just books, but also a tiny community story plaque, a short tale from someone on that street. Pineview Lane had become a model, not just of what a community could look like, but what it could feel like. Life lesson? You don't need a big event to bring people together. Sometimes, all it takes is a box of books. And one person brave enough to believe in small things. So if you're wondering how to bring light into your neighborhood, maybe it doesn't start with a festival, a speech, or a huge project. Maybe it starts with a wooden box. And a door you leave open. Speech balloon, do you have something like this in your neighborhood? Would you start one? Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe to Minutes of Moral, where ordinary moments become extraordinary.